Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We've got the audio and video. Yes, I managed to figure it out. It was a shitty little program that sort of duplicates the webcam camera, because only apparently on Windows, I don't know about Macs, but only one program can use the webcam at a time. So you need to install this program that duplicates it and stuff, and then it just uses too much power and figure out a way around it. Caleb,
it's the technology experience brought to you by On the Pod.
Yeah, we'll call this one Geeks to You or something. So
you lost me. You've lost me straight away.
Everyone's tuned out. Instead of us getting the average of 20, 30 views, we're going to get 15. That's it. But look, hopefully people have. You know, what's that saying? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So,
Yeah, we've been gone for a whole 3 days.
Yeah, 2 or 3 pods I think we've been gone for that people haven't been able to see our mugs. So, guys, welcome back to the football experience. Yeah,
it's good to be back.
It's good to be back on video. I think at least I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with it. But Caleb, let's preview the Champions League, or review. Well, I guess in one perspective, preview it, because I actually pulled up. UEFA do this pretty well. They put in who is in the last 16, and then they got the group winners seeded and the group runners up. Now, I don't know if this is what you had in mind of what you wanted to do, but you want to maybe do a potential fantasy matchup, because the draw.
Well, go. Yeah, tell me what you were going with this.
Well, the draw is on, I think, Monday. I think the 7th. Yeah.
Yeah, Monday. Yeah.
So, since we're recording before the 7th, we can do a potential round of 16 matchup of what teams face what teams. Now, obviously, there's rules there, so no side can face each other from the same national association, and clubs cannot face opponents they met during the group stage either. So we just have to be wary of those two conditions, I guess. But did you want to do that? Because I think it was all but 2 groups that were decided going into this week.
I definitely do want to do that, and in terms of the mini review that we might do, I think there was everything was pretty much chalk from what we saw. The teams who were pretty much I guess Sporting Eintracht was sort of on a knife's edge. We didn't really know who to expect to go through there.
Did you see that group? Someone put a photo up of at the minute every goal went through, the group changed,
how it changed.
Yeah. I don't know how many times it changed, 6 or 7 times it changed. Who came first, second, third, and all that.
It was so chaotic that, in amongst all the chaos, I forgot that you still have a Europa League place up for grabs. And apparently Marseille manager Igor Tudor's been getting a lot of stick for not conveying that they should have gone for the draw in the game to get the Europa League spot. I'm thinking to myself, but if they win the game, they're in the Champions League knockout phase.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here, guys? Surely you've got to go for it in that instance. And obviously Kolasinac had a great chance to. It's funny when you watch Marseille Tottenham, because it's the ex-Arsenal boys against Tottenham.
Yeah, there's a couple in there.
Rejects.
Yeah, Sanchez, Guendouzi, Kolasinac.
Well, he wasn't a reject, I must say, Sanchez.
Yeah, true.
He was very good.
Yeah, but also Saliba played there last year as well.
Of course, yeah.
Is Tavares there as well?
Yeah, Tavares is there on loan, I believe. Yeah. So. They're all there, but no, I think Tottenham should have gone through. I know we get on Tottenham's backs, but in terms of quality out of that group, they have the most. And I think Eintracht have put together a decent run recently, so they probably deserve to go through second. But of course, you had Milan Salzburg, which had a lot on the line. Thankfully, Milan come through comfortably in that one. I'm not saying anything against Salzburg, but if you give me the choice of Milan or Salzburg into the next round, I'm taking Milan every day of the week. Hernandez, my stock rose a little bit because I thought he was excellent in the game, and obviously Giroud was the main man, and Yeah, Leao with his cameos. Tonali played really well. I thought all the Milan's big players rose to the occasion, and I don't know how serious the injury for Mike Mignon is, and this gets to the point I want to do before we sort of go into potential matchups. But just projecting forward and looking at injuries. Wait, before I go into that, there's the last thing I must touch on the review. Did you see what happened in the final group? I believe that's Group H. PSG and Benfica fighting out for first spot.
I think I saw the two results, but I wasn't tracking it minute for minute. Both of them both of them won though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, PSG went into the last day with +4 goals better in goal difference, and obviously they drew their 2 matches in the group, so the head-to-head is the same, apart from the scoreline, which comes back into effect later. But yes, I don't actually. Did they? They were both 1-1s as well.
They were both 1-1s, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and so Benfica need to win by 4 goals to go through. I think the way they went through was by away goals scored in all of the games.
Okay.
And obviously PSG won 2-1 at Juve, so they thought they'd done enough. And I think Benfica's 4 goals or 5 goals or whatever they needed to win by, they came in the last 20 minutes of the game to snatch top spot, and they put probably the biggest cat amongst the pigeons in terms of second place. We can discuss Liverpool, but PSG are a massive spanner in the works to be finishing second in their group. Although Benfica, I've been touting them all season. I think they're fantastic.
Well, that could potentially set PSG up for a similar run to what Real Madrid had last season, because Real Madrid finished first though in their group, didn't they? But they just got like a really tough. Who'd they have in the round of 16? Or
PSG.
Yeah, because PSG finished second, right? Yeah. So it could.
So they potentially set themselves up for that.
Yeah. So
the point.
Just repeat.
So that was mad scenes in that one. I thought that was worth mentioning because that will get back to our matchups, I guess, later. But in terms of the projection and because the next ties, the round of 16s, are in the middle of Feb, and of course this season we have a World Cup before then. So I guess my question is, how much do you think we can project ahead to this? Do you expect to be seeing different teams in terms of what we'll see at that time after a lot of these players go through a World Cup? And obviously just the fact that it's like any Champions League round of 16, it's so far away from the time of the group stage that often you'll see teams, have a downturn of form, an upturn of form. Players will come in, of course, over the January transfer market. So how much stock do you reckon we can put into projecting what we'll see now in terms of when we do our matchups and stuff?
In terms of, I guess, if we do a matchup, then who would come in on form or on top?
Yeah, and you're just taking in all these factors. Are we going to see the same teams that we're seeing right now play against each other, or do you think it's more likely that they'll be pretty different when we come to the time that we're playing the ties?
I'd expect them to be pretty much the same. I'd expect Neymar to be missing for PSG, as he always is around his sister's birthday. But other than that, except for maybe 1 or 2 signings per team, potentially because of January, I expect the teams to essentially, the actual teams themselves to be the same. There are, for a team like Liverpool, who's sort of up and down and you don't know what to expect from them from week to week, maybe that will actually give them time to actually settle and find their rhythm and their form. Which obviously will serve them well considering it's a knockout stage. Whereas for other teams that are already settled, maybe the reverse could be true. Maybe they could have a couple of disruptions. In terms of the World Cup, though, the first 2 weeks are all the group stage games. So you're going to have half of the teams being eliminated. You would expect, obviously, the strongest nations that have the strongest players, like your Brazils, your Belgiums, your France, to obviously go through. So Like De Bruyne is going to be there for at least 3 weeks. Same as Mbappe. Same as Messi, you would expect as well. So all these top players, you would expect it to be for a minimum of 3 weeks. And then obviously the further they get, then they'll be the full 4 weeks. But I'd say the players are going to get enough of a rest all up, because do they have like another week? They have another week off after the end, right?
I believe most leagues are doing that, and Premier League comes back Boxing Day, so that's a week, and most leagues I think are giving more.
Yeah.
And I think that it's 2 months if you go to like the semi-finals between the World Cup and the Champions League round of 16.
Yeah.
But of course, you'll be playing league football in there as well.
Yeah, and
after a World Cup.
I heard, I'm not sure if every team is doing that, but I heard something along the lines of, apparently Arsenal is going to be doing like a boot camp or something in Qatar or somewhere in the Middle East, maybe even Dubai. So like as their players get knocked out, they just rejoin the team, which is like, an hour's flight, or maybe even in the same country if they're in Qatar. So I imagine that the other top teams might be doing something similar. Like I think I even heard Pep say that Man City might be doing that as well. So all these top teams, they're probably going to like give a week, maybe even 2 weeks off for the players that aren't going, and then they come to the Middle East to actually do their like almost like another preseason. So I can't imagine form will go off.
Are you saying the players who get eliminated from the World Cup pretty much go straight from the World Cup to rejoin the club side?
I think I heard that some teams are going to be doing that. Yeah.
That worries me. My instant reaction to that is worry, because if you're getting knocked out in a World Cup quarterfinal, semi-final, or making a final, that's so mentally taxing. I have to imagine on a player, because these will be the highest pressure games that these players will play in their careers. I'd just be worried about burnout later in the season if they're joining straight after a World Cup in which they've gone reasonably deep.
Look,
I expect a lot of top players to.
It was one. I think I heard in one of those like sort of press conferences that they have, like pre-match press conference, and then obviously the reporters are coming with the questions of the World Cup. So I think it was more like an off-the-cuff answer that they're giving, that they're looking into potentially doing that. But like you mentioned, like if the World Cup was it was supposed to be in June, July, then they would have had a month. Maybe I think they usually get 2 weeks off, potentially 3, depending on how long you stay in the tournament for, before they rejoin with their club teams. So I don't know. Maybe they might do something similar. But for the Premier League clubs, like for instance, I fully expect Brazil to make the semis, if not the final. So for the Brazilians in the Arsenal team, if they make the final and after the final it's already the Boxing Day matches, then those players are going to be missing for that Boxing Day fixture. Same with other players around, like with Liverpool and whatnot, and City. So it might be, I don't know. They might be rushed back into the teams. Yeah.
So that's really going to be interesting to see how that pans out. I guess we should maybe a little bit later go into each case individually, because I think with your Liverpool and PSG points, that perfectly summarised kind of what I was talking about. It wasn't, I guess I added the transfers in, but I don't know how many. See, that's a variable that I have no idea what's going to happen in terms of what kind of movement there'll be in this transfer market after the World Cup. So that will be interesting to see how it pans out alone. But I think the World Cup, in terms of your PSG, and you made the Neymar point, but it wouldn't be the point that I was going for in terms of the sister's birthday. The point that I'd go for PSG is Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar would all be expected to go quite deep in this World Cup. And for players like Neymar and Messi, it's their last real World Cup. Well, Messi, it should. should definitely be, and Neymar, you'd expect it also to be his last World Cup. So the pressure on, and especially being from Brazil and Argentina, which I'm not saying of course every country puts stock in the World Cup, but I feel like South America, Brazilian in particular, and Argentina, just to be better than Brazil as well. The stock they put into this is different levels. So the PSG one's going to be interesting, finishing second in the group and looking to see how those players come back after the World Cup. Because how motivated will they be to try and win the Champions League with PSG? Messi, he's won, 4 of them already? I know this will be a different club, but he's pretty much done everything in the game. Neymar's done everything in the game. So how motivated are you after your last big World Cup to come back and try and push and get your PSG team past what should be a really tough tie now that they finished second in the group? When you're looking at Man City, Real Madrid, Chelsea would be a good draw for them. Tottenham would be a good draw. But Bayern you could get, and Porto would be a good draw. But Napoli as well you wouldn't want to get. So that's going to be really fascinating for me to see, because this in projecting, and your Liverpool point as well, like a team like who haven't been able to find any consistency, like you say, can they reach their higher ceiling in that time? Can they get their players back in that time and look like a completely different Liverpool? So yeah, those factors will definitely be interesting to see what we see when we come back, because I wanted to project and I wanted to start looking at all of this, but I think all these factors come into it, and it just makes it a bit harder to conceptualize what we're going to see at that time when we come back. I had another point that I was going to make about the last thing you were saying, but I lost it. It's too early in the morning. I haven't had my coffee.
It happens, man.
It happens. But I think we should go into the matchups and have a look at them individually, and then we could touch on what we've seen from these teams and whether some of those factors will come into play with them. So finishing top at each group, obviously we have Napoli, Porto, Bayern, Tottenham, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Man City, and Benfica. I think that's pretty strong top finishes. I mean, I think obviously if you're a PSG, you're hoping to get Porto, right? Or if you're any of these teams, are you hoping to get Porto or
Benfica? I know Benfica look dangerous, but I still think I think Liverpool can handle Benfica. I think PSG have shown that they can't.
Well, they don't need to. That's all right.
I think AC Milan could be a potentially decent matchup.
So what I wanted to ask was, are you of the mindset where you want a favourable matchup against a perceived weaker team, or are you of the mindset when you get into the Champions League, let's beat the best? Because let's not forget, last season we saw a run where Real Madrid literally beat all the best teams in Europe.
Beat the favourites, beat the second favourites, and beat the third favourites.
Yeah, the only one they didn't beat was Bayern. Yeah. That was the only team you could say.
Who Villarreal beat, who got beaten by Liverpool. So.
Exactly.
But even so, Bayern would have been either third or fourth favourites between. It would have been between them and PSG, really. Liverpool and City went in as the two favourites.
Yeah. But what's your mindset on it? Do you want the favourable matchup, or do you want to? If Arsenal were in the competition.
Well, all right. From a financial perspective, I think the further you go, the more money you get, the more prize money you get. So, from that perspective, if you were a slightly smaller team, so if you're a Dortmund, you would want the favourable matchup. But for someone like PSG, you don't really care because money's not an issue. Someone like Leipzig as well, someone like Frankfurt and Club Brugge, they definitely want the more favourable matchup because they can actually get through. They can get more prize money, which means that they can recruit better players for next season and then potentially equal their performance or even better it. Because what's the point, for instance, if you're a if you're a Leipzig and you get matched up with Man City, it's like, well, far out. Like, I'm getting knocked out. It's sort of like the Victoria Pilsen, like being put in the same group as Bayern, Inter, and Barca. It's like, well, you got no chance of getting out. If they were at least in Tottenham's group, then they could have got a Europa League spot potentially. Like, because that was the weakest group of them all. So like anyone would have loved to have been in that group of the weaker teams. So I think it depends on where the club is financially, in terms of like what kind of matchup you want. Like obviously you like if you're a player who wouldn't want to be playing at some of these like massive stadiums like the Bernabeu and whatnot. I was going to say the Camp Nou, but they're eliminated, aren't they?
It's too soon.
but yeah, like if you're a player from Club Brugge, like I don't know, like the prestige of playing at the Bernabeu, like that's something special. Like I think I've heard some of those players that played for those smaller clubs, and I think like years and years ago, like where sometimes they'd get a victory. You know how I think Celtic beat Barcelona 1-0 like 7 or 8 years ago, didn't they, in the group stages? So like those kind of performances where like you go to one of these places and then you beat them like 1-0 something, and like you hear these players, they talk about it with like such passion and they relive it as if it was actually like yesterday or it happened a couple of hours ago because it's so fresh in the memory. So I don't know, from one perspective, you can go both ways really.
Yeah, and in answer to that, I think you led me on to the next thing. I think we should go through the matchups because you said Leipzig against Man City, for example, is a we're getting knocked out sort of tie. Yeah. And I tend to agree with you, although Leipzig have looked a lot better, and I think they have a lot of talent in the front areas. It would take some sort of superhuman defensive effort from them against Man City, which I don't think they're particularly capable of. But and Kuko up front, Werner's hit a little bit of form, Schloboslai up front as well, and Forsberg coming in. I think they got a lot up front to worry. But so I'd say that's like so in that category you've got. Is there any, I guess, Bruges against, Bayern? Do you give Bruges a chance against any of the top teams from any group?
Look, I haven't watched Bruges.
I haven't intently watched them either. Yeah, so come on.
And I know they almost finished top of their group. Like Porto got
pipped them.
Yeah, they pipped them on the last day, didn't they? But yeah, like, would you really give them a chance against any of these teams?
No, I wouldn't. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe Tottenham
or Porto.
I don't imagine
Porto. They can't play. They can't play Porto.
Yeah.
Same group, so they can't play them. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. That's definitely the weakest group. The one that, if you are of the mindset where you want the favourable matchup, that's the one you want to pick from.
Yeah, or depending on...
But Tottenham, because like you'd imagine Tottenham would maybe have to take the game to them. And then when Tottenham have to do that, they're not awesome. Even then, they still got Kane and they'll probably have Son back and Kulusevski by then.
Yeah, and they could even bring in a signing or two.
Yeah, exactly. That's maybe the only one that I wanted to point out. But even that, maybe Chelsea as well. I think the English winners of those two groups aren't particularly strong right now, but they could be strong by the time we get there. So that's like a no-hoper. Do you see any other like no-hopers? Because we've got Leipzig against City you brought up.
Frankfurt.
Like that. Frankfurt. Do you give... But I think... Yeah. So is City the only team that Frankfurt you give no chance against? Real Madrid as well?
Bayern.
Because I give them a chance against
well, they
Chelsea,
can't play
Tottenham.
Bayern, can they? No.
And yeah, they can't play Bayern.
Yeah.
Same association.
Napoli as well. So if Napoli is still flying.
Yeah, is that a team you give them no chance against though? Because that's the question. If Napoli is still flying,
is no chance like literally zero, or is no chance like
no? Well, of course, there's always a chance because we're talking about on the same level as Leipzig against City or something like that. Bruges is the one that we've given like 1% chance against maybe a few teams. But Napoli, like the question is, do you expect them to still be flying by that time? The one thing I will say, I don't expect any of their players to be going deep in a World Cup. So they might get a second preseason, and they're already young and full of vibrance this season. So
who does Osimhen play for?
I think I'm not sure what nationality Osimhen is actually.
And your boy, what is it? Kvaratskhelia?
Kvaratskhelia, he's Georgian.
I thought he was Ukrainian. Okay.
No, he's Georgian. Well, there's another Ukrainian, Mudryk at Shakhtar. He looks a really good winger. He should go somewhere else as well. But see, I think it's reasonable to expect Napoli to still be flying by the time we come mid-February. So, like that, I guess that's what's the cutoff point for a team like Eintracht to be not expecting, but have a reasonable chance, I guess, because obviously you got Bayern, you got Real, and you got City as the top candidates, and Napoli is sort of murky. Can you almost put them as a top candidate there?
I'd put them as like a top dark horse candidate. Like I'd put them ahead of Benfica. So
they're sort of like in a subcategory of that. Kind of like Tottenham in the Premier League a little bit at the moment.
Yeah, but out of the teams that like finished group winners, you'd only put Bayern, City, and Real as like the top candidates. And I saw a stat. Apparently, Benzema has scored 0 and assisted 0 in the group stages.
Yeah, he's had a very stop-start to the season.
Well, he did get injured after a week or two.
Yeah, exactly, and that's obviously the main contributing factor to that.
Yeah, so there's only like 3, I guess you'd consider like elite teams like in there.
Okay, so the next question is, if we don't expect a Leipzig or an Eintracht, and just a little shout out as well, we got to mention that Germany actually got all 4 of their teams through.
Really?
Huh. Yeah. Bayern through, Eintracht through.
Yeah.
Leipzig and Dortmund. So as much as I've been shitting on the Bundesliga this season,
they've
got all 4 of their teams through.
They had a 5th team.
They had a 5th team?
Yeah, they didn't get through.
Who?
Xabi Alonso's team.
Because
Frankfurt went.
They had the Europa League winners.
Yeah, so they got 4 out of 5 teams that went through.
Oh, to be fair, they even got Europa League as well.
Yeah.
But that group, in fact, that group you'd expect to. Porto are a pretty good side. You'd almost expect the flip of that group, but anyway, I digress.
Yeah, but you would have expected Leverkusen to get ahead of Bruges.
Yeah, they would have fancied their chances to get out of that group at the beginning. Yeah. But yeah, if we don't, so they had 4, they could have had 5. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And as much as I've been shitting on the Bundesliga this season, but yeah, if we don't expect those teams, your Eintrachts, your Leipzigs, to beat those top tier teams, who can we? Obviously, Bruges. Who can we expect to match up well against those top tier teams, and who will they? I guess, depending on their mentality, but if they want a favourable matchup, who will they not want to play?
Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? In
PSG
and Liverpool. Who do
you put above? You put Liverpool above as more of the one you don't want to play.
Man, Liverpool at Anfield on like a Tuesday or Wednesday night. Like I said, it's
the place where Leeds went 1-2-1.
Yeah, but that wasn't a Tuesday or a Wednesday, was it? It was a Thursday.
Yeah, I know. It's different. Champions League is different.
Yeah, it's different. But it's still like they have that mentality of, what do I keep saying? Don't feed the gremlins after 12. Like.
Also, on that point, just before you go, what is it? Newcastle have only lost 1 game all season. That was at Anfield. City have only lost 1 all season. That was at Anfield. and now Napoli have lost their unbeaten start to the season. So if you have an unbeaten record, don't be bringing it to Anfield. That's why I'm looking at Benfica as potentially the matchup. If they roll in undefeated at that time, we'll snatch another one. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
But yeah, like Liverpool and PSG are like I put them like in their own sort of category or class, and then I'd put Dortmund, Inter, and Milan in their own class.
You don't put Milan as in that top class with.
Nah, I just think the team's a little bit too. I think it needs one or two more players to sort of make that next step. I feel
centre back.
Yeah, even I know Giroud's decent, but like even like a better striker that's going to deliver you 20 plus goals like guaranteed. But yeah,
that'll be a good one to revisit in a transfer pod when we get closer to the window.
Yeah, I just feel like they're one or two players off from making that next step to being like in that next category. But they do they play good football and everything. So AC, Inter, and Dortmund are in their own, and then I think I'd put Leipzig just below them in their own category, and then I'd put Bruges and Frankfurt just below that.
See, Frankfurt might be an interesting one because they have had an upturn in form recently. So if they can continue that, and again, a team that you don't expect to have much exertions at the World Cup, Leipzig as well have been on an upturn. They might have players with, you look at Timo Werner and Christopher and Cuckoo. They
Werner's injured, isn't he?
Somewhat.
He got injured.
I thought he was back for the.
I heard he got
he got injured in the game. Yeah, in the game he did.
And apparently he's going to miss the World Cup. I don't know
how serious that was. No.
Yeah.
Well, that's Germany's main man. Their main striker out for the World
there's
Cup.
A couple of injuries that Reece James is out. Walker's like a 50-50 apparently. Chilwell's now out. Timo Werner. I think there's one other player that isn't going. Can't remember who it is, but it's another.
Well, there's a couple. There's a few from France, obviously, that were.
Pogba's not going.
Like he wasn't.
Varane's not going.
And Kante, yeah.
Yeah, Kante's not going.
We'll have to touch on all those injuries when we look at those final squads.
Yeah.
For the World Cup, but I would put Leipzig and probably Frankfurt. If Dortmund are there, I would put them in the same category as well.
Yeah.
Because I might bump Dortmund down a little bit or push Leipzig and Eintracht up a bit. But it's no doubt that Bruges is the one you'd be licking your lips for.
Yeah, if you're any one of those teams that finish first, you definitely wouldn't want to get paired up with Liverpool or PSG. But do you want to do a potential round of 16 matchup? Yeah, I was going to say
let's go on. Is it a potential or a fantasy?
Potential/fantasy. So because obviously we can't do Dortmund versus Bayern because we'll try and stick to the rules while we fill this in.
Do you want to go one by one and then you?
Yeah. So let me just get some paper. So I can write this down. All right. So, fantasy, what matchup we'd want to see, but a realistic one, and we might need to chop and change it if we come down to the last 2-3 matchups and we realize they were in the same group or they're from the same nation. So I got it on UEFA's website in front of me. So Bayern is first here. So Bayern, who would you want to see them play? So they can face Bruges, Liverpool, Milan, and PSG. They can face the least amount of. They have the least amount of potential matchups.
How many is that? Is that 4?
I think 4. Yeah. So Bruges.
Yeah, Liverpool also can only face 4 as well when we get up to Liverpool. The evil side of me wants to say, do we want to get it out of the way now and match up the two teams we've been comparing to each other all season and just do PSG against Bayern? Because they play in similar leagues, although the Bundesliga participation in the Champions League would not suggest that it's a weak league.
Yeah.
I must add that. But yeah, they played in competitions where we sort of say, they'll win the league. What's the big deal here? It's only judged on the Champions League. Well, let's give you guys a final sort of. This will be as big as any final, I think, a PSG Bayern tie in the round of 16.
Well, considering we're gonna we have Liverpool and Bayern, they are gonna have the least amount of potential opponents, so they might actually give us trouble if we match it up with other ones. I don't know. As a Liverpool fan, would you want Bayern?
I've always been of the mindset in the Champions League of give me the best teams. We'll take on the best team. Although this season doesn't fill me with confidence the way we're playing. But yeah, normally I'm just it's the whole reason you're in the competition. Just give me the best teams. We'll play the best. So whoever we get drawn, I'll be pretty happy with. But there's good storylines with Liverpool, I must say. And the thing is, there's good storylines with PSG, the matchup. So it's a question as well. Is Bayern the matchup we want to give PSG the most? Or do we want Bayern maybe playing a Bruges and just getting Bruges out of the way and Bayern safely into the quarterfinals, and then we can have a bigger matchup in the quarterfinals?
Well,
maybe.
Bayern couldn't dispatch of Villarreal last year, so do you give them much credence to get rid of Bruges?
A couple of levels above Bruges, though. I know I'm shitting on Bruges, but.
And I think we've seen PSG Bayern we didn't see it. We didn't see it last year, I don't think. But we saw it the last 2 years. So we saw it in the final 2 years ago, and we saw it, I think, in one. I think even the past out of the past 4 years, we've seen it 3 times in the knockout stages. So I don't know. I've seen that matchup. Yeah, I don't really want it. I wouldn't mind AC Milan Bayern.
That was my next choice. My problem is
we might chop and change it if we go down.
Yeah, no, okay. I'm happy with either of those selections. I'm happy with Milan. I'm even happy with the Bruges, like I said, because then we just give a big team a little team, and we've got a big team in the quarterfinals. Milan, in that matchup, what percentage chance do you give Milan in that matchup?
40?
25 to 30? 20.
No, 40.
So 1 in 5 that they could get through that.
I reckon they have a decent chance if all their players are fully fit.
Yeah, I could go maybe even as high as 32, 33. I don't know if I can push 35.
Where are you pulling these numbers from? I at least think...
33 is 1 in 3, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
So there's a 1 in 3 chance that they'll get through that time.
Yeah, all right. But I think last year, or last season, you gave they have a 6% chance or something, or an 8% chance.
That was maths behind that.
Quick maths.
Maybe flawed, but...
All right. Well, let's try and wrap this up pretty quickly, because you did say that you have another meeting or appointment, an engagement in about an hour or so, and we still need to get and we're just gonna after this we're just gonna touch on Chelsea, Arsenal, and Liverpool, Tottenham. So I don't think there are any other games that really pique interest. But all right, Benfica. They can get any one of those teams except PSG.
Well, like I said, there's the storyline that if they roll in to Liverpool undefeated, that could be a bit of fun.
I saw that matchup last year, though.
Yeah, true, but I feel like this is even a different Benfica, and they were pretty good last season, to be fair to them. But yeah, we did see that matchup last season. And there's precedent of them beating us in the round of 16 when we were defending champions, actually, 2006.
Well, I got... I'm looking at one team that I reckon could be a fun matchup. It's a German team.
Inter?
No, it's a German. Yeah.
Which one of the 3 are you going with, Leipzig or Dortmund?
Or
Eintracht?
Well, you got a 33% chance of picking the correct one.
Dortmund?
Nah, Leipzig.
Yeah, that would be a fun matchup.
If this was Klopp or Tuchel's Dortmund, I'd say that Dortmund would be a fun matchup. But Leipzig play a little bit more quicker and a little more attacking. So I personally want Leipzig. I don't. If you have any other ones that you'd rather see Benfica play,
I think Inter would be a fun matchup for Benfica as well.
Inter are a little bit too defensive. I think they'd stifle them a little bit too much. At least I think Leipzig Benfica would be open. So I'm looking at it from I don't know what perspective you're looking from. I'm looking at it from what's the most attractive game that could potentially happen.
Okay. Yeah. I would tend to agree with you if it was for most attractive. I think a Liverpool Benfica could be pretty open and attractive as well, to be quite honest.
True.
Leipzig, I think, for the most attractive game, I think you're spot on. If we've already taken Milan out, yeah, definitely that.
So should I lock them
in? Milan would be a fun one as well, though. Yeah, lock them in.
All right, next one
I think Benfica are just a really good team, so
yeah,
they'll play good matches.
I'm pretty impressed by them so far. Next one's Chelsea.
Speaking of pretty good teams, I wish we could be right now. Bloody hell. Chelsea.
They're a really weird one. They feel unsettled at the moment. Like Potter's just he's trying to find his formation, trying to find his 11.
Potter's just potting along.
Pothead.
Okay, Chelsea. I don't know. Is there anything really interesting about watching him play Dortmund?
You know what team I'm looking at?
Who are you looking at?
Just putting them to the sword. PSG.
That's what I was thinking as well. Can we get Chelsea up out of here?
Should I lock that one in?
Yeah, PSG is such an interesting because we could get PSG Real Madrid again, and I think as much as you don't want to see a rematch, I think that's a rematch we might want to see.
Well, we can get that in the quarters potentially.
Yeah, I know but see, there comes in another question: do you go the risk v reward of like, do I just want to hold on and to maybe see this in the quarterfinals, or have the chance of one getting knocked out?
We did miss out on Chelsea PSG last year because of Real Madrid.
Yeah, I was fine with that, the way Real Madrid would go. You know what? Give me Chelsea Inter.
Chelsea Inter.
Give me Chelsea Inter. I'm happy with that. I think that'll be an interesting because they're two big names at least. And it will just be an interesting sort of tactical battle.
It's going to be too defensive, I reckon.
There's nothing wrong with defensive football if it's played well.
Yeah. All right. Next one's Man City.
Yeah. Man City. PSG's still working. I'm just looking at them. PSG's still lurking.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's worthy of a final.
Well, yeah. Well, if we don't give Man City PSG and Messi versus Pep, then we're going to have to give PSG to Napoli, Porto, Real, or Tottenham. Oh, Napoli PSG could be fun, yeah. And I don't think I've seen that matchup.
And they're all very good options. Even the Tottenham one is actually, in terms of
haven't seen that matchup. Yeah,
that would be an interesting style matchup. Oh man, do we just do it? And do we, instead of giving them the toughest test, just give them the easiest, and we give them Bruges?
Well, all right, hang on. Well, we can give
City always get these last draws of the Champions League anyway.
Well, we can give them Frankfurt. That's the only other one we can give them.
So it's either Bruges or Frankfurt. Who could we be giving Frankfurt to if we don't give it to them? Porto, I guess.
Potentially,
or Napoli. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. The spanner in the works right now is who do I give Liverpool and who do I give PSG to? I think they're the only questions.
Hang on. I think we might need to give Bruges to City because Porto can't be matched up with Bruges.
Yeah, perfect. If that's what we need to do, we'll work from there.
And we expect City, even if they were matched up with, for instance, a PSG or a Milan or an Inter, you would expect Man City to still go through, even if it was against a PSG. It would be tough, but you would still expect them to go through.
No, all the other ones I'll give you, but PSG I draw the line at. I wouldn't say it's quite 50-50. I'd still give City the edge, but it will be as tight as that. It'll be worthy of a final for me. That.
Well, like I said, it's not a foregone conclusion, but City are still going to that tie as favourites.
Yeah, I would say
but it's just
but for me,
it's just the toughest.
Slight.
It's just the toughest one out of all of them. But you still expect to see City in the quarters against any one of those teams. You'd still expect to see them in the quarters. It's just a matter of how tough is that round of 16 tie.
Yeah. All right. So if you put it that way.
So we'll just give him Bruges then. Next one is Napoli. Who do we say we're going to give it to Napoli?
So now we've got Dortmund left. We've obviously got PSG left.
Frankfurt.
Eintracht.
Napoli. Yeah. That could be decent. Yeah. Should we give them Frankfurt?
Could be decent, and obviously you get a good chance of Napoli being into the quarterfinals if you do that. But I think it'll be an entertaining tie because I don't think Eintracht have it in them to really defend, and Napoli obviously have it in them to attack. I think Napoli Dortmund might be interesting as well because at least that's two very atmospheric stadiums. Fun ties you've got the potential for there as well.
Well, hang on. I think that can still work, but we're starting to get into the point where Liverpool can only get Porto or Real. Yeah, they can only get Porto or Real then.
That second one's pretty tasty. I
think considering we haven't put Liverpool up against Bayern, Benfica, they can only, out of the remaining fixtures, they can only go up against Porto or Real. So which one do you want to see? We'll come back to the Napoli one, I think.
Oh wait, who does that leave for PSG? Tottenham and Napoli, really?
And Porto.
No.
If you don't give them Liverpool. So Napoli or they can get Napoli, Real, or Tottenham out of the teams that we have left.
Yeah, see, that's interesting. You know what's funny as well? Liverpool always get Porto in the knockout stages of the Champions League.
Yeah, they tend to always get a Portuguese team.
Yeah, we always do.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that one happens. I don't really want it from a football aspect. From a favourable draw aspect, that's not bad. Oh, man, it's tough. So, all right, I'm happy to defer to you on what you want to see here. Because I think we've laid out all the storylines we can of what we could get out of these.
Well, okay, let's fill PSG somewhere in here. So, do you want to see PSG versus Napoli, Porto, Real, or Tottenham? The Arsenal fan in me is saying Tottenham.
Tottenham's good, and Napoli's pretty good as well. That would be a really fun tie.
As a football fan, that would be a very good tie.
But I think PSG would come through that. So I want to say Tottenham. I think from a style matchup, and the fact that I think we want to see Liverpool against Real Madrid in the round of 16 as football fans as a rematch.
So you're going Liverpool versus Real. So you're locking that one in.
Well, what's the other option?
Porto.
Porto, isn't? Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's got to be Real. From storyline and football wise, it has to be. Those teams have to play. So I think PSG against Tottenham will be.
All right.
I think anyone who PSG against teams will be really fun.
Who are you giving Dortmund and Frankfurt to? Napoli or Porto?
We'll give Dortmund to Porto because they have the Westfalen Stadion and it's an awesome atmosphere. They get the one atmosphere and Jude Bellingham.
That means Napoli, Frankfurt. The last one.
Yeah, that'd be a fun tie. I think that'd be fun. And it gives Napoli a really good chance of getting through. And I think so far what we've seen of Napoli, they should be a Champions League quarterfinal team.
Okay, so out of the potential ties that we've formulated, we have Bayern AC Milan, Benfica Leipzig, Chelsea Inter, Man City versus Bruges, Napoli Frankfurt, Porto, Dortmund, Real Madrid, Liverpool, Tottenham, PSG. The only one that I'd really change is I do, as much as I like PSG, Tottenham, I would also like PSG, Chelsea.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that because you want?
And then that actually leaves a good narrative. Inter versus Tottenham. Conte just came from Inter.
That is a good narrative that we missed.
Yeah,
for sure. But if you don't want defensive football,
yeah, true.
To be fair, Inter try some games at least to try and go forward.
Yeah, but yeah, this. You know what? It will be interesting in when we do our next pod, because I think that will be Monday night, so it'll be after the draw is complete. It'll be interesting how many of these we got correct. We should put some money on it or something.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that. What's the standout there? It's probably Liverpool, Real Madrid, isn't it?
There's like 4 standouts. Like, if you're talking about one specific one, Liverpool, Real Madrid, because that's the repeat of the final. But you got Bayern, AC Milan, Chelsea, Inter, PSG, Tottenham. Those are the real standouts. Are those 4? So you can only really get 4 standout matchups, can't you?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah,
and hopefully a lot of good teams in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, so long as Man City beat Club Brugge.
Oh man, imagine that for a shock.
Stranger things have happened.
It was bad enough when Lyon knocked them out in the Lisbon Championship at the Stadium of Light.
Oh, well, and then
anyway,
in 2003 you had Porto versus Monaco in the final as well. So stranger things have happened.
No, they were
Well, considering how many players went from that Porto and that Monaco team on
and Monaco,
onto.
I was just about to say Napoli are giving me big vibes of one of those teams, probably Porto of that
more
time.
so Porto, I'd say.
Yeah.
But Caleb, we've got 40 minutes to wrap up this pod, and we need to touch on 2 big games. So we're moving on from the Champions League.
Yeah, I'm happy.
All right. Which game do you want to do first? Your beloved Liverpool?
My beloved Liverpool. I think I'll leave this to your digression.
Let's do Arsenal Chelsea, since that's the first game of Sunday. So I want to start this off by asking the question for you: if you were to pick a combined 11 right now, like if you had the players that are currently available, so like taking injuries into consideration, taking form into consideration, how many Chelsea players get into Arsenal's 11? Because I think it's going to be 1, potentially 2, but I wouldn't even be surprised with 0.
Well, are you talking about if we have this game coming up? So it's just a league game. Obviously, it's a league game against a big team. Or are we talking about if we're going into like a Champions League semi-final with the next game and I'm picking a team?
Either or, really.
Because if it's the first option, then I would agree with you that 0 Chelsea players get into the combined 11.
Yeah, and that's.
But if it's a huge game like a Champions League semi-final, then I might make concessions for a couple. Right. And namely Kovacic over Xhaka.
That's the one, right? Because Reece James is injured. Reece James is.
Oh, sorry. Wait. Sorry.
Yeah.
Before I go on, I've got to correct myself.
Go on.
Thiago Silva is definitely one of the centre backs, and he replaces Gabriel for either or, because Thiago Silva has been unbelievable this season.
I can accept that just because of how young and how mobile Saliba is. But if it was
Saliba stays in the team.
If it was another like old centre back that we had there instead of Saliba, I don't think I can partner up a 37-year-old with like another like 34-year-old or something.
Well, I'm thinking more of not of the chemistry aspect, but just who's the better player to put into a team, sort of that fantasy aspect.
That partnership would be pretty solid, to be honest. Yeah.
I honestly can't believe how reliable Thiago Silva has been at this age this season, and how good he looks going into the World Cup.
Yeah, I don't know. It must be all that asado that he's eating. But like, I honestly Kovacic is the only one who I'd and this is sort of a combination of the fact that Kovacic has sort of been in and out of the Chelsea team because he's had niggling injuries. But I know he should be available to be picked for Sunday. But Xhaka's form has been terrifying, like from a good perspective this season. So I don't, as much as I rate Kovacic so highly, and like he's the heir to Modric in the Croatian national team, I don't know if I can drop Xhaka, to be honest. So
well, that's why I wanted the distinction between what we're picking for. Because if it's just another league game and the team's rolling, Xhaka stays in the team because his form's been so good this season.
I don't know if you can really. Let's just say it's because we're going into this game. Like who I guess gets into the team and who is a potential shout. So like Thiago Silva gets into the team, I reckon. Potential shout is Kovacic, I reckon. I don't think he walks in there. But other than that, I don't think any Chelsea players walk into that Arsenal team.
No, they definitely don't. I don't disagree. Now an interesting question will be what the combined 11 would be with everyone fully fit. Because obviously Chelsea would have a few more shouts.
But you know that's another thing. Like Ben White has been so good at right back. Like he's been like a real surprise.
But you're not putting him over Reece James.
That's the thing. Like he's been so good that like it's actually not a foregone conclusion. You can actually have a debate about it. I know Reece James
I'm not yet indulging that debate because when Reece James has played, he's probably Chelsea's best creator, and it goes into that trend of these fullbacks who are creators, but when he plays and he can defend as well.
Yeah, but that's the other thing. Like I think Ben White's obviously a better defender. He does offer less going forward, but he's been solid, man. Like he offers a different toolkit to what Reece James offers. And you can't say that Reece James offers the exact same thing, but like better in one or worse in one. Like I guess.
Well, I will say that Reece James has played a very similar position to what Ben White is doing and role when he plays the wide centre back as one of the three, and I think he's been fantastic when he plays there. So I still, just for the ability on the ball as well, I have to put Reece James above, because we've seen what he can do defensively. We've seen that he's an athlete, and if Ben White is, and I'm not completely co-signing that, but if Ben White is a better defender than Reece James, it's marginal. And what they can do on the ball, I think Reece James can just do so much more. And athleticism, I think he's a lot quicker to support. But in saying that, I'm not taking away the fact that Ben White has been fantastic in his new role this season. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying it's not a foregone conclusion. Whereas like last season, like with Tomiyasu out, we had Cedric was our main right back. Yeah, 100% put Reece James in. But now it's like, ooh, you can actually have that debate now. You can have that discussion.
I find the left back position more, obviously with everyone fully fit, as more of a interesting debate as Chilwell, Zinchenko,
Cucurella.
And do you want to put Tierney in there as well?
You can put Tomiyasu in there. He's been filling in for left back.
And Tomiyasu's been playing there, so there's so many to pick from if we're doing a fully fit combined 11 there.
I think that then comes down to what your preference is to how you want to play. So, because like, yeah, if you want to keep possession of the ball, you put Zinchenko in there.
Cucurella is very similar type of player like that.
Yeah, but Zinchenko's better.
He has been better this season, definitely.
Well, that's the other thing.
But he's been playing for a better team as well. I must also
Zinchenko's
say.
only had like two or three games really. So that's the other thing we need to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But then Chilwell and Tierney are pretty similar. They both bomb forward. They can both defend pretty well. I'd say Tierney is the better defender. But those two are really similar. You just made the comparison between Zinchenko and Cucurella, but I'll still take Zinchenko over Cucurella if I want to play with that sort of style with the inverted fullbacks. But then you got Tomiyasu as well, who's sort of popped up in the last 2 or 3 games playing left back, and that's if you want an inverted right footer playing left back, and again play more defensive and not have someone bombing forward. He's an option as well. So that one's up for debate, but that's just because there's way more options really. And then we forgot Tomiyasu at right back as well, but because Ben White's made it his own this position, you can't really put Tomiyasu in the discussion.
I think in talking this through, because my instinct at the left back position, when everyone's on form and everyone's fully fit, is to still go probably Chilwell, because I think he's a bit like Reece James on the other side. I think he's a good creator and he's probably the best on the ball in terms of in forward areas. I know Zinchenko and to an extent Cucurella are great at controlling possession, like you talk about with the inverted fullbacks. But I think Chilwell can give you that option a bit better than Tierney when we've seen Tierney try to do it. I think it looks a little bit clunky. I think Chilwell's a bit more fluid, and I think he can offer more going forward than a Tierney, although I would probably agree Tierney's just a little bit better defensively. But I think it goes into the main point, the bigger point if you're of a Chelsea persuasion, that they've lost 2 massive players as their full/wing backs in this team, because they are much like Liverpool's fullbacks, they're such key creators for the team. And now for months, or however long it's going to be, until I know Chilwell will probably miss the World Cup. I don't know how bad James's is. I haven't read up on it, but now they're missing these guys. Yeah, there you go. So now they're missing these guys to at least that break, and then let's see how they come back on the other side of it. But these guys are huge for Chelsea, and without them, what worries you about Chelsea? Is there anything that worries you about Chelsea going into this weekend?
Not really, because Aubameyang has he even scored for Chelsea in the Premier League since he's come back? He hasn't scored he hasn't scored in the Premier League. His goal scoring isn't as prolific as what it used to be. Kante is injured. Their midfield, I think we can get on top of them. Because if you look at their midfield, who is there? Jorginho, Kovacic, who are pretty decent at keeping the ball. But I think if I remember correctly, you think that you can get on top of Jorginho very easily. If you're
Jorginho looks like a midget in that midfield. In the Premier League, if the game becomes up and down physical,
he gets found out. So who's the other midfielder? Your boy, Ruben. I was going to say Robin. But
unless you want to drop a Gallagher in there or a Mason Mount to beef it up a little bit.
Yeah, but if you look at the midfield, Xhaka, Partey, and Odegaard. Odegaard for me is really weird. It seems like he goes a little bit missing when games go a little bit, when they go a little bit against us. He starts. I know he likes to try and get into those pockets between the midfield and the defense, but sometimes when the game is starting to go against us, like against Southampton and against Leeds, not so much against United, even though we lost that game. He starts, instead of him popping up in between the lines, not just between the midfield and defensive line, but also between the left back and the centre mid or defensive mid, between those gaps as well. So those pockets, he starts to hide behind the defensive mids, and we don't have that. I've noticed that start happen with Odegaard, and then we don't have him as an outlet anymore. So yeah, if he can get that out of his game, and he might start doing it this season, or even next season, as he gets a little bit older, as he gets a little bit more strength, a little bit more comfortable in the Premier League as time goes by, then he will he'll be extremely dangerous, like even more dangerous than what he has been.
Yeah, and there's an interesting bigger question bigger picture question that I want to ask you off the back of that. Does it worry you that a player who you've noticed can hide when the game goes against you? Does it worry you that he's your captain and he's your perceived main leader going forward in this season, where you've been probably found yourselves in a title race? Let's admit it, because we're nearly at that World Cup break now, and you guys are looking like you'll either be top or second going into that. So,
well,
does that worry you going forward?
Not really, because it seems like Mikel has a leadership team. So when you see when you see the goals being scored, or when you see there's a prolonged break, and Mikel calls like the entire team into a huddle, it's usually Xhaka that's actually leading the conversation and leading the discussion. So I'm not sure what type of captain Ødegaard is. He might be, from what I've heard of Steven Gerrard, he might be that type of captain where he leads by how he plays rather than how he talks. Because I've heard Gerrard is more of that. Like he wasn't ever the biggest talker. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, he wasn't necessarily always the biggest talker and the loudest on the pitch. But he led by example. So if he can stop those sort of, I'm not sure if I'll call them habits or momentary lapses. If he can stop those moments where he hides in games, then he will become a better captain.
Exactly, but that I guess that gets to my point, that if he's meant to be that sort of leader who leads by example of how he plays on the pitch, he can never hide from a game.
Yeah.
He can never go missing. And to your point as well about it being a habit, habits worry me, because habits poke their heads up at the worst times when you're going for big things. Exhibit A, PSG last season. PSG, we always, like, everyone seems to be out on PSG this season, and I can't disagree for the reasoning because of what we saw. I guess everyone thinks that they have the fraud in them, and it's just waiting to come out when that pressure becomes too intense. So, if you're noticing, and I must admit, I haven't personally noticed that about Ødegaard, but obviously, you're in the Arsenal shirt. You're watching the games week in, week out. You can pick up on all the little habits. So yeah, if you're noticing that, from my initial reaction is, that sort of worries me if we're going to get into these high pressure moments later in a season where we're potentially going for a Premier League title against maybe one of the best teams we've ever seen in Man City as well. So I guess that could be a good thing to fall back on.
To be fair,
go on.
I've seen De Bruyne do it as well a couple of times. I've seen him go missing in some of those tough games.
Yeah, I've never noticed.
I've noticed him do it as well.
That's an interesting one. I would definitely have to look back at that, because my initial reaction is, no way. I don't think that guy hides.
No,
I think games could go against City.
Yeah, I've seen like it might not necessarily be him hiding subconsciously or on purpose. It might be that just the other team is playing so well that they're cutting off the passes to him. So maybe this is a similar sort of thing where they've noticed that Ødegaard is the key creator. He's trying to open up space, but because they're shielding the spaces or the passing lanes to him, it might look like he's hiding, but he's actually not. So it might also be that perspective too. So we need to give credit to the opposition teams.
Yeah, so that's got to be an interesting one. Now that we've pointed it out, that's got to be interesting to look at in the coming weeks until the World Cup, and then on the return as well. But yeah, I think that was just a little notice. I don't know how much more or how many more topics you had related to this game.
Not really. Like, I guess you have one team that, there's a new manager. He's trying out different formations in every game, it seems. They just got pummeled by Brighton. I've said this a couple of times.
I have no defenders.
Yeah, I hate playing against teams that get pummeled, whether they are perceived top team like a Chelsea, or a bottom team like Southampton. Like last year, Southampton got beat by Chelsea 5 or 6-0. And then we played them and we got beat 1-0. I hate playing top like teams after they get a hiding, because they usually shut up shop, or they come out like all guns blazing and come out more motivated, more fired up. So, but again, they have so many players missing because isn't Mendy injured again apparently? Not Azpilicueta. Arega Azpilicueta.
Balaga.
Yeah, whatever the
Ariza Balaga. Yeah.
The Spanish goalkeeper. Kepa keeper. Hasn't he picked up an injury as well? So they might not even have.
He came off injured. I don't know about the Mendy one, but I know Kepa came off.
Or Mendy's just sort of coming back from injury, or he's out of favour with Potter. Doesn't really rate him as much because he doesn't suit the style that he wants Chelsea to play.
Well, yeah, that's definitely been a problem for him.
Has Koulibaly had an injury as well, or is he just? Or is he coming?
He must have because we haven't.
Something
I
happened.
haven't seen him in weeks
I swear.
As well.
Yeah. So their defense is a little bit raw or inexperienced, or and then their midfield is missing players as well. Their attack is just not. It seems very blunt. I don't know what I can expect from this Chelsea team. And then Azpilicueta as well seems out of sorts. He's lost that.
He's old.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I was about to say that he's lost that yard of pace. But has he ever really had pace? But he's lost the yard.
He was clinging on last season, and
against
last
Martinelli.
Season, I thought was his absolute last season. It's just at a top club. It's you can't.
Well,
you can't
Barca wanted
this
him
level anymore. Yeah, but Barca wanted everyone, didn't they?
But exactly without Reece James and Chilwell, Cucurella could probably deal with Saka on that left hand side, but who deals with Martinelli and who deals with Jesus as well? Through the center, that front three is just so quick and pacey and
yeah, and they're your key progression this season. What's made you a really dangerous team, but. To your Cucurella point, he couldn't even deal with Solly March against Brighton, so I don't want him one. Is Saka back?
Yeah, he played. I'm not sure if he played the whole game against Zurich or if he played 60 minutes. But yeah, it seemed like it was one. I remember I had. I don't think it was the same one, but it might be something similar. I think it was a couple of years ago when we were playing against Springvale, and this one of the players he came up and he tackled me from behind, but he kneed me right in the hammy or something, or right in the side of the hammy / quad, in that area, and it corkied me so bad, and I could not walk or run for the rest of that game. It just locked up the muscle. So it seems like it was one of those impact sort of injuries where it just locks up the muscle. You can't do shit, and then you just need to give it a couple of days to recover, I guess. And because he played it as if there was nothing wrong with him on Thursday night.
Yeah, so I don't fancy that matchup, that's for sure.
Yeah, but and then the midfield as well. I don't really fancy that if I'm a Chelsea fan. But Kovacic can keep the ball extremely well. Jorginho can keep the ball well. But if you start getting on top of him and the game starts going against him, like you said, you don't fancy his chances.
Well, they can keep the ball, but like we say, there's nothing really worrying Arsenal. So Arsenal can press a little bit more freely and not be worried about those attacking threats and have to sit off. So how well can they keep the ball under that pressure when they don't really have an out ball? It'll be interesting to see if Chelsea can somehow maneuver a way to have an out ball. Because as bad as Timo Werner was at Chelsea, at least he would have offered that out ball. It'd be interesting to see if they could get Kai Havertz doing it or Aubameyang.
Does Aubameyang start or no?
I don't know. I've been off Chelsea for so long now that.
But that's another narrative as well.
To see this, but
Aubameyang versus Arteta.
Yeah, true. Maybe he's fired up. Maybe that's the thing that you need to be worried about.
Yeah, potentially. But I watched him against Dinamo, and man, he just seems like his when he receives the ball, it's like a brick wall receiving the ball. The ball just bounces away from him. And then maybe he always had that bad first touch, but because he had that pace to recover it, it didn't look like a bad touch. But now it's because he's also lost like a yard of pace. It looks even worse. It looks like a problem now, whereas before it probably wasn't a problem just because he had that pace.
Yeah.
So, but then having said that, hopefully those words don't come back and haunt me, and he just takes like this silky Bergkamp touch and just slots it like top corner. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
Well, knowing Chelsea's luck this season, maybe they'll get another gift somehow.
Hopefully Arsenal doesn't gift them like the same way they gifted bloody United. But just before we move on to the next game, we wrap up the pod. Prediction? It's at Stamford Bridge as well, don't forget. Oh, and you didn't watch the Chelsea Dinamo game? Dude, Stamford Bridge was quiet. Like, I only heard the Dinamo supporters. Like, the whole game.
And while we're on crowds and stuff, I didn't watch that game, by the way, but in a dead rubber in the Champions League, I'm not surprised Stamford Bridge was dead. Anfield was pretty dead, to be fair, against Napoli. But I don't know if you saw it, but the Sporting Eintracht game, I don't know if you remember, but last season, I noticed this while I was watching, I'm like, damn, there's a lot of empty seats at the Alvalade. And do you remember what Eintracht did when they went to the new camp last season in the Europa League?
They got all their fans to buy up the home seats.
Yeah, so to avoid that, Sporting, I think they withheld those tickets that they thought would be resold to the Eintracht fans. So instead, they played in front of empty seats rather than having all the Eintracht fans invade again.
Oh, well.
That'll be another interesting thing to look at in the round of 16 with the Eintracht fans.
Yeah, because
the invasion.
I've seen their home games. They seem like they put on a really good atmosphere.
Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, it's crazy at the home games.
Yeah.
But prediction, I'll go 2-0 Arsenal.
2-0. I can see it being 3-0 or 3-1.
Oof, that's confident.
Well,
remember last time you got me with an outlandish one was 4. I think you went 4-1 City at Anfield, and I was like, that's a bit much.
Well, last year at Stamford Bridge it was 4-2. But
these are high-scoring games.
And then
Stamford Bridge, Arsenal, Chelsea,
and the fact that like Chelsea are missing so many players, whereas and our team has been settled pretty much from the start of the season with 1 or 2 players missing from week to week. But it's been the same 9 to 10 players every week. You would expect Arsenal to win that. I wouldn't say comfortably, but I'd say a hard fought win. So a 3-0 or a 3-1. Good prediction. Hopefully Gabriel Jesus comes up with a goal or 2 as well, so he can get his goal scoring boots on.
Yeah, he needs them.
Yeah. But Caleb, we have about 17 minutes before you need to head off. So 17 minutes dedicated to Liverpool Tottenham. Is it at Anfield or no?
I don't know. We need 17.
But is it at Anfield or no?
I haven't checked that one yet.
And also, I'll say it ahead of time. If we've missed,
it's at the North London Stadium.
Ooh, if we've missed any games from around the leagues, our apologies, but we'll cover them in the. No,
there's a few good games. There's a few derbies around. I think there's like a Super Sunday, so there'll be a lot to watch. Monday for me, Sunday for you.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's at the North London Stadium. I don't know. What's your question here?
Should we start off the same way? A combined 11.
Oh, that's an interesting one. It's still probably just about have Alisson through default because Lloris isn't very good. Not recently, anyway.
I wouldn't take Lloris even if he was in form and Alisson was out of form.
He's a World Cup winning captain, so I don't know how much we can be. But
And
I don't know. You still have to be pretty good to be a World Cup winning captain.
yeah, but look at what he did. Did you see one of the goals that he conceded in the World Cup final? Like,
Of course,
come
of
on,
course.
come on.
Yeah, no. Even out of form, Allison, you probably still take Van Dijk over any, except for Christian Romero. You probably partner those two together if you're playing four at the back.
Who are your left and right backs?
Well, Robbo's fit again, so
Trent. What about Trent?
Well, here's your problem though, because Perisic isn't one of a four. So if you want to put Perisic as a wing back, you gotta play with a five.
Nah, not putting him.
No, you don't want to put him in.
Put him up higher. In his preferred position.
Put him as one of the wingers, like for Croatia.
Yeah, pretty much. He's going to track back anyway.
Well, I guess you have both Liverpool fullbacks then. See, has it gotten to the point where it's so bad that you have a question between Emerson Royale and Trent Alexander-Arnold? Is it that bad?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, just because Trent has been out of form this season.
I know, he's been terrible, hasn't he?
And I think that's more down to your midfield being really bad because they probably covered for him, like when he would bomb forward, so he wouldn't be asked of so many defensive duties. But now, like that, your midfield's a little bit lackluster. He then can't afford to bomb forward as much as what he used to.
Do you have any Liverpool player in the midfield?
Thiago, Fabinho.
Do you have Fabinho in the midfield over Højbjerg and Bentancur?
Bentancur's been good over the last 3
or
4 games.
Weeks ago.
He's been pretty good. Really he's been pretty good. So like what? Fabinho, Bentancur, and Thiago. Would you
honestly? I'd put Højbjerg and Bentancur over both Fabinho and Thiago.
Really?
If we're talking this season.
But then who's your third then?
If you're going with three, then you could maybe put Thiago in there.
Well, what formation would you pick?
Well, see, you can pick like Liverpool have been like a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-4, whatever you want to call it, or you can go 4-3-3 because Tottenham have been playing three.
Well, who are your front three? Is it Son, Kane, and Salah? Even are we basing this similar to the Arsenal one, where like it's players that are actually available that aren't injured that can play?
Yeah, I guess if we're doing it that way, obviously it's not Son. It's definitely Kane. It's probably Salah as well.
So would you go two up front, Salah and Kane?
Yeah, Salah and Kane, but then who do you put in the wide areas of midfield because Tottenham don't play with them and Liverpool, all of them are injured or not been playing well. So
yeah, because Luis Diaz is out as well, Jota's out. Harvey Elliott, can he play right midfield? He's sort of been filling in for right midfield, hasn't he?
See, the more we do this, I'm realizing this is the most depressing combiner out of the top sides that we can do. My God,
this is shit.
Yeah, I know. You're even putting Alisson and Van Dijk in there just because there's no better alternatives. They're just not playing well, those players this season. And also, I don't think Christian Romero is not available, so you can't even put him in if we're doing fit.
Oh, well, there you go.
Players. So the more we talk this game out, the more we talk the combined 11s out. I don't know how much excitement we should be generating for Liverpool Tottenham this weekend.
Is it worth watching the full 90, or should we just stick to the mini match when it's available and just watch 15 minutes?
I tell you what you do. You watch the first 20. And then you decide off that, because if it doesn't look like a good game in the first 20, then you just watch the mini match later, and you'll get all the best bits after that.
You get the luxury of mini matches. I don't get mini matches, so
no.
I think there's like an extended highlights show, so it's only like 5 minutes of extended highlights, but I need to wait for them to actually do it. It's not like on demand, like on Optus.
Yeah. No, that's disappointing. But yeah, the mini matches are good, and I think this game has every potential to be a mini match kind of game. It's also kind of because we've gotten to the point of the season where I think we know who everyone is at this point. Going back to that point, how much a team's going to change. I guess Liverpool do have the potential, but not at the moment because they still don't have the players back from injury necessary to try and change. And Tottenham, I think, are very much consigned to playing this way. And I guess there's been lots of question marks around Tottenham. Is this what Conte wants? Is this how he really wants them to play, or are there other factors added? Honestly, I think it is what he wants to play, but he's doing it out of necessity because I think I've made this point a few times, but I just don't think that Tottenham, particularly the defence, I just don't think it's very good, and I don't think he trusts it. So he feels compelled to play this way because if he started using back fours with Eric Dyer as one centre back, even Longley, who's never filled me with confidence, it's just, do you really want to be playing back fours with those guys? Even Romero's not really a back four type of defender. So, yeah, I guess they could be a little bit more proactive in the 5, but look, for the main part, they're third in the league and they've gotten out of the Champions League group top. So I know it's been ugly to watch, but they're still where they are. So you can criticise it, but the results are the results. And look, honestly, as a Liverpool supporter, I'd want to be in that position right now, to be quite honest.
Playing shit football, but still getting results. But Liverpool have a tendency to rise for these big games. Like we saw them just beat Napoli at home. We saw them beat Man City as well and rise for that game, and everyone was writing them off. Like even you wrote them off. Matthias wrote them off as well.
Yeah.
Was there any other? Well, neither Arsenal nor Liverpool rose for the Man United game, probably because we both thought that would be an easy game to. Like both teams thought that would be an easy game. So, but
no, the main thing is the location of those games. The two that we rose for were at Anfield. This one's not at Anfield, so it fills me with far less confidence of the venue.
Yeah, but still, like you're playing
they can
another
do
one
it.
of those big
they
teams.
Can do
yeah,
it.
But then again, Tottenham they had your number last season.
Yeah, and they can also do it. And how much of a psychological impact? Are Liverpool at the point? It will be interesting to see how much we're holding on to the rope because it's getting dangerously close to a point where we're not even really in the top 4 race. We're 9th at the moment.
Yeah, let me just check the standings and the points.
So I am interested to see the reaction to the two losses to the two bottom sides going into those games, and see whether Liverpool are really still fighting for top 4 or are all the eggs now in the Champions League basket when they come back and hopefully have a full squad. Because it, like I say, it is getting perilously close to that point where that top 4 even looks gone.
Well, all right. You guys have one less game than Tottenham. So if you beat Tottenham, you're then on 19 points. They stay on 26. That's 7 points difference. And then if you win your game in hand, then you're on 22 points. So you're only 4 points behind them. That's... And like what? With 20 games left...
Yeah, of course. And like I keep saying, the form of the other teams is the thing that I'm also clinging on to. And that's why I'm saying we're not out of the top 4 race yet. But the 2 losses in the last 2 weeks have been terrible. And to your point, what we'd require to bridge that gap onto Tottenham is a consistent run of wins, which we have not been able to show that we can do this season yet. So until I see it, because how many corners have we turned this season? It was Newcastle, then it was the Champions League, and then it was City, and now it was Ajax and Napoli. There's too many quarters turned for me to start believing it, and I can't believe it until I see it. And Leeds and Forest in the last 2 games really have put a dampener. And now it's not only the points gap as well. The fact that we're 9th, we actually have to climb over a lot of teams now as well, who also need to lose, because it's not just Tottenham who need to lose. These other teams need to start losing as well.
Yeah.
So, we're not out of it, and I don't think I'll say that before the break. But my God, we do. I think we pretty much need to win all the games going into the break, and it needs to start now.
If Liverpool lose, they can potentially be... You guys can potentially fall to 13th, depending on how I haven't looked at what the other teams are, like who the other teams are playing, but like depending on what the fixtures are, Crystal Palace can go above you, Brentford, Everton, and West Ham can go above you, and Bournemouth has a worse goal difference. So they'll only be equal on points, so they can't go above you. But yeah, like you guys can fall to 13th if you lose, and depending on what the other fixtures are and how they go, that's horrible.
Yeah, and I think there's one finishing point that I know this game isn't at Anfield, so it won't really affect this game, but it's just an overall one that I haven't brought up yet. And I listened to it. I think it was Don Hutchison was talking about on one of the pods I was listening to. Yeah, well, this one's a good take. This is a good Don Hutchinson take. So I'll give him his dues here. But I think he was talking to like one of his friends who's a Liverpool supporter from Liverpool. I think the information he got from him, he was saying, "Look, we're just fried. We're all a little bit fried from last season. We're all a little bit just dead from last season, from coming so close to the two things we really wanted and ultimately missing out." I think it just fried the whole place. And as a Liverpool supporter, I can completely back up that statement because this season has just felt like everyone just needs a recharge after last season, because I know we're not playing in the games, but as a fan, and any football fan who has a team that they're deeply invested in can attest to this, but the anxiety and the nerves you feel while you're watching the games when your team is playing for something can really, like, I don't know, leave you a little bit like almost mentally exhausted after the game. So after having a whole season of that, and particularly at the end of the season where we always went a goal down, we always went 2 goals down in games, even trying to get to the Champions League final against Villarreal, we give ourselves nerves. So after going through a whole season of that and then not having the boost of being propped up, I know we've talked about the effect that it has on the players, but to not come away with the prizes that you're going for as fans, I think we're a little bit fried and we need the recharge as well. And I think that's why there's been this kind of resignation to start the season from almost everyone involved at the club. But I guess the positive, and there's always, at least there's one positive, but we are out of the Champions League and we still do have a very good squad on paper if they play to potential. So I sound like a broken record, but yeah, the fan point was one that I hadn't really pointed out yet, and I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I can imagine the World Cup break is going to help Liverpool the most, because I think that you guys, because like you said, the squad is there, the team is there. You just need that sort of kick up your ass, and maybe even just a rest in general, just a break. Because maybe the break that you guys had over the summer wasn't long enough. So it might actually do you guys very well. So like players that are injured, they have time to recover, they have time to come back. Who knows if Trent is even going to go to the World Cup? Van Dijk's going, Alisson's going, Robertson's not going. Henderson's even. I don't think Henderson is in Southgate's plans. He might be in the squad potentially, but he's not going to be playing. Salah. Wait, did Egypt make it or no?
No.
Salah's not going.
Yeah.
Darwin Nunez. He's Uruguayan, yeah.
Yeah, he'll be a big part of it.
Yeah, so he's going.
They could go pretty deep.
So like out of your starting 11, there's only like 4 players that are going.
Thiago's out of favour at Spain. I don't know if he'll be going.
So
Fabinho will go, but he won't.
Going.
Unless Casemiro gets injured, he won't be playing. I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, but you got Fred. They got Fred, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, like you guys are only sending 5 players potentially, and like out of those 5, like I guess they're all going to be starters. Potentially Fabinho's going to be a starter, maybe not, but like 4 of them are starters, I guess. But even Alisson might not be a starter. Like Edison might be the starting goalkeeper potentially. No.
I don't think Tite has his heart set on Alisson, and selection would suggest that. I think most Brazilians are behind that. Anytime I listen to a Brazilian talk about their team on a podcast, Alisson is definitely number 1.
All right, well, fair enough. Well, regardless, it's a goalkeeper anyway, so yeah. It's not like he's exerting too much energy. But yeah, look, before we sign off, prediction for the game?
Ooh, I'll go 1-1.
1-1?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna hope for a Liverpool win because it's obviously against Tottenham, so there's a little bit of bias there. Also, it will sort of dampen, like, because you guys are so far off top four, and Tottenham are there, so like the more points that are taken off them, and like with you guys still struggling, sort of in and out. Like a Liverpool win. I think a Liverpool win would help us the most. In terms
we're no threat to you guys anymore.
Yeah, because I'm still not saying that we're title challengers or contenders. I'm still saying that we're challenging for top four because the whole elephant on the branch analogy. But yeah, like maybe come March, April, then maybe I'll start saying that we're title challengers.
Really put your neck on the line with that. Wait until March and April.
Well, that's a better perspective, isn't it? Like, you know, we could have a bad run of games. Like you guys lost.
It doesn't sell. It doesn't get viewers though. You got to be outlandish, man. You got to say we're going to win the title.
Yeah, true. gotta be like those AFTV guys. But like you guys lost 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You guys lost like 6 games around that Christmas period, and they were all at home, weren't they? Or like was it home and away combined?
At home. It was that COVID season, no fans and everything.
Yeah, so
I think we lost a few more away as well.
And you guys were on top of the ladder as well, like going into like Boxing Day or whatever. Yeah, so hopefully something like that doesn't happen again. It doesn't happen to us. I mean, if it happens to you guys, I don't give a shit. But yeah, like something like that potentially could happen to us or even like City. So yeah, who knows? But Caleb, I'm going for a 2-0 Liverpool win because, yeah, screw Tottenham. Anything else to add or?
No, obviously we're not touching on those fixtures around the continent, but we'll touch on them.
Review them.
Yeah, for the review. And yeah, hopefully over the next couple of days, I remember that point that just eluded me before. When I re-listen to the pod, I'll remember it. I'll be like, damn it, should have said it.
Well, I'll look forward to revisiting your point.
If it's important, I'll bring it back up.
Yeah, if it's important. If it's not, don't worry about it. But Caleb, been a pleasure. We'll catch up after the weekend. Hopefully both our teams get the results that we need. So I'll bid you adieu, and to all our fans, thanks for coming, and bye for now.